Birds of Prey is about to release, and the conversations surrounding this film are incredibly interesting. Despite great reactions, many DC fans are just simply not feeling this movie. It's tracking much lower than the Suicide Squad movie that it is spinning out of, and I thought this was the perfect opportunity to deep dive on why Warner Brothers and DC seems to be making the same mistakes over and over again. This video is brought to you by Tara Zahn, one of our executive producers via Patreon. What's up, everybody? It's Josh. Welcome back to the channel. Do me a favor and smash that like button like Batman, and let's get right into this. To me, Birds of Prey is a perfect example of the types of mistakes that DC just seems to continue to want to make. And before we get too deep into this, I want to say that it's very possible that Birds of Prey could be amazing. It could actually resonate with fans and it might end up being a huge hit. And I don't mean to belittle anybody that's looking forward to the film or anybody that actually saw it and enjoys the movie. But to me, when I look around, a lot of DC fans are not interested in this film. It's kind of lost touch with the audience base that could be excited for the movie. And I think it's just a perfect example, again, of the mistakes that DC continues to make. I'm also really pumped that Tara ended up being the producer on this video because she is a female nerd who has strong and super well-informed opinions about this type of stuff. Tara and I hashed out some of our feelings about this. We see eye to eye on a lot of things. She sees some things differently than I do, and that's to be expected. But by and large, we both agree that the big problem that DC has is that they are using behind the times Hollywood thinking. Tara pointed out to me that this film looks to capitalize on the popularity of the Harley Quinn character, but it is choosing to highlight the wrong things. It's like you can see a group of Hollywood people sitting around a table saying that, oh, Harley Quinn, a lot of people were that character for Halloween after Suicide Squad came out. It's a very popular character. Let's make a spin-off movie of it. And you know what else? She's a female character, so let's make it a female central movie. And you know what else? Female empowerment is a big deal right now on Twitter, so if we put those themes into this movie, it'll be the perfect recipe to captivate audiences. But if you then look at the movie itself, they are females that are desexualized from their comic book counterparts, at least the traditional depiction of those characters. And the main villain of the story is Black Mask, but it is a version of the character that is a quibbling, conniving, and flamboyant gay man. Now, I need to stop here for a second and explain that desexualizing characters or having a protagonist that is flamboyant and gay and quibbling are not inherently bad thing. The problem is that they are off-brand from the comic book depictions of these characters that have made them what they are. Harley's character in the TV shows and comic books is sexy and sassy and kind of ridiculous. Much like the character of Emma Frost from Marvel comic books, Harley Quinn uses her sexuality to her advantage and is actually kind of putting down men by actually being super sexualized and using that fact to manipulate men. Black Mask in DC comic books is an incredibly sadistic but brilliant crime lord boss. He loves to torture people and is incredibly tactful as a leader of his organization. The depictions of these characters in the movie is very different than what you would expect from the comics. It is like a disconnect. It is simply off-brand from what people would normally expect. And this is a huge DC problem in general. They can't seem to properly portray the actual on-brand properties of their characters that got them the followings that they have. And even though DC has had people in the past like Jeff Johns that clearly do understand the brand of these characters and why people like them, he and maybe others around him lack the insight into how to properly take those things that are on brand and portray them on the silver screen. Like, basically, it's one thing to know why people love Batman. It's another thing to be able to figure out a fresh way to represent all the things people love about Batman in a film. Look, you guys know me. I'm not one to dunk on SJWs or take every little thing that a crazy progressive person does and hold it up. I'm not a fan of getting into the culture war or talking about how these things are all agenda based. To me, it's not so much that Warner Brothers is playing into an agenda. It's just the fact that they're trend chasing. They're just just doing things like an old Hollywood studio. People in Hollywood, like it's been said before, people in Hollywood don't like to read and don't like to think. They're literally just copying what they think is working and following trends. And by the way, this is not like a secret. Like even Chris Stuckman, who's very middle of the road, very sensible, he actually talked about in one of his recent videos that he was having trouble selling his script in Hollywood because agents kept coming back to him and saying it would have a better chance of being sold if you injected some social issues into the script. And I frankly don't think that is because all of these people in Hollywood truly care so much about pushing this agenda or being a part of this culture war. It's because they think that's the trend that will get them money. They are frankly out of touch with what comic book audiences love about these characters. Birds of Prey isn't selling us on an incredible story that introduces comic book characters that we have been longing to see adapted into a film. It is instead being sold as a fun pro-female romp, which is totally fine, but honestly not compelling to me at all and feels off-brand for what I love about DC Comics. I also think that DC doesn't do itself any favors by its lack of focus and clarity about its continuity. How do these films even tie together? They refuse to reboot, but they also refuse to explain clearly that these films are not connected, that there is no canon between them, except for Joker, and obviously that was a very successful outing. I mean, consider this. Captain Marvel made over $1 billion. And I think that's partially because Feige knows how to please all sorts of potential audiences. Frankly, Captain Marvel could have been perceived in much of the same light that Birds of Prey is being perceived in, and yet it made $1 billion. And again, who knows, maybe Birds of Prey will make that $1 billion, but it is tracking in at about a third of the opening that was happening for Suicide Squad. So it ain't looking good. Like, it's not really looking like it's gonna make that $1 billion. And when it came to Captain Marvel, even people like myself, who were never really a Captain Marvel fan from the comic books, I felt like I needed to see Captain Marvel to see how it connected to the MCU canon. But it wasn't like a chore to go see it either. There was plenty of stuff for nerds like me that frankly just aren't really that into female empowerment movies. Like, I'm not a hater, but it's just not my thing. Do you know what I mean? So when it came to Captain Marvel, we were given amazing stuff like the Kree and the Skrull and a young Nick Fury and a young Agent Coulson. There was enough toys for all of the different nerds to come to that film and enjoy. And on top of that, it mattered. It mattered to the wider canon. So there's so much of a draw for people like me to go see that film. It's almost like DC, and particularly Birds of Prey, is doing the exact opposite. I don't really see a lot in this film, at least that's been in advertisements or even in the reviews, that would be for a nerd like me. Again, not a hater, but just not super into female empowerment films. It's not a movie I'm gonna go give my money to. And on top of that, they're doing weird changes to characters I love from DC. I love Black Mask and I love Ewan McGregor, but I'm not super pumped to go see this version of the character considering what I have heard about the portrayal of him. Look, I love DC. Tara loves DC. A lot of people at the Den of Nerds love DC, and we want DC to be doing better, but they keep making the same mistakes, and the same mistakes are that they lack a vision and a continuity that they can easily explain to people, which would then give weight to films you normally wouldn't want to go see, you would want to go see to see how it fits together. And on top of that, they're using old school Hollywood thinking and chasing trends and not understanding the brand of the characters that have already been established in the source material. So there you have it, folks. My thoughts and Tara's thoughts about the mistakes that DC keeps making and why we think Birds of Prey is a perfect example of that train of thought, that old school trend chasing Hollywood thinking that keeps getting them into situations like this. But that is just our opinion. We want to know what your opinion is. Let us know what you're thinking about all of this in the comment section below. And now let's shout out Pete King. Indeed, February 24th is when we will be getting the Project Luminous announcement for Star Wars. Shout out to you, Pete King. And now let's ask another nerd card question before we get out of here. I want to know, in the comic books, what is the real name of Black Mask? Answer that question in the comment section below. Again, I want to let you know that this video was produced by Tara Zahn. Tara and all of the people that support us over on Patreon are amazing. They help us out in this crazy YouTube climate where things can change drastically and quickly. So thank you very much to all of our Patreon supporters. If you are interested in checking out the Patreon, consider checking out the link that I put in the description. As I always say, I hope you're having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next video.